Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're very excited to have you joining us on a little bit of a drizzly, cloudy morning here in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's spring. It will become 80 degrees, believe it or not.
So hurry up and get your café con leche now, because it's going to get hot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Especially if you want an iced café con leche, get it now, because by 2 p.m. it's going to be melted on you. It's going to be it'll be a lukewarm. That's right. Lukewarm, semi-warm café con leche, which probably won't be the best.
Semi-watery.
Yeah, neither hot nor cold, which you don't want. Pick one or the other. But we've got a great show lined up for everyone this morning. On Today Mañana, we're going to be joined shortly in the show by Renata Miller from Viva Nosh here in Charlottesville. Later, Xavier and I will talk some finance, we'll talk some stock market, we'll talk some economy, we'll talk numerous things. We'll see where the conversation goes. Where the conversation goes, where the questions lead us, where the comments go. So we are open to anything. Already, Nicholas Urpí tuning in this morning. He's fast. You got to hand it to Nicholas Urpí.
By the way, Miller, is that related? Miller?
Which?
Renata Miller.
Renata Miller.
Oh, yeah. Related to anybody you know?
We'll see. We'll see if any other Millers tune in and join us.
But there aren't really that many Millers in the country.
Yeah. As we've learned. But so we got a great show lined up for everyone. Emergent Financial Services, our presenter. Thanks to our great partners, Matthias, Realty, Charlottesville, Opera, Forward, Adelante. Of course, thanks to I Love CVille Network. We love being on the set here in studio. Judah behind the camera, making us all look good. So
he's always doing a great job.
He is working his magic all the time.
He makes it easy for us. That's the key, right? It's like
really
we just
does.
come in and we don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
Other than make sure the microphone is close to
Yeah, make sure the microphone, know vaguely who's coming on, I wake up in the morning and find out that Xavier's going to be my co-host. It's like, okay, yeah, that works. No. We jest. But it's a great show we've got lined up. I don't know about you.
Sure, why not? I'm looking at this beautiful box here.
We have some beautiful accoutrements on the table that we'll be able to share with everyone. So we're definitely excited for that. But without further ado, we're excited to welcome to the show this morning Renata Miller from Viva Nosh. Renata, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good
morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Appreciate
it's great to have you on.
So say good morning in Portuguese.
Bom dia.
Oh, very good. Bom dia. It's almost like buen dia.
Yeah, no, it's close. I mean, anytime you hear Portuguese, the beautiful part is that it's close enough to Spanish that I can get an idea what's saying now. It just sounds like a very smooth musical version of
she said
Spanish.
So nicely,
Yeah, exactly.
Portuguese speaker didn't sound that way.
But we're excited to have you on. Excited to have you on the show. So maybe for those who haven't met you yet, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first became interested in baking, and tea parties, and in everything that would eventually become Viva Nosh.
So since I was a little girl, I love baking. I love making things that look beautiful and taste delicious. And once I started having children, I had 4 girls. And the first 2, we did a lot of tea parties. And so I would bake and we'll set the tea set on the table. She actually got a little tea set from her grandmother, and it was just so pretty. And we would make real tea, put it in there. It was a porcelain too, and we still have it. And she's 16 years old, and 4 of them has played with them. And so it's just something we cherished, to be together, eating delicious little treats, drinking the little tea, and it's just a very sweet thing to do, especially when you have girls and they want to dress up and everything. So
that's awesome.
And then we lived in California for almost 10 years, and we moved to Nebraska, and it was right before COVID. And I didn't have a lot of friends there. We didn't know much place to go and do, and they were homeschooled, so I had a lot of time, and I started baking more there.
Right.
And the more I started making things, I'm like, I really enjoy doing this. Now that my house was quiet, calm, and I had time, and I really put the time to do it, and I'm like, I really want to do this, something with food somewhere at some point. And I just knew I wanted to move to a place where was close to the ocean or close to mountains, because where I grew up in Brazil was that kind of environment, and I really missed that. So we moved from Nebraska to Palmyra. We didn't know anybody here. We didn't have a job here. We just had the hope that would work out because it was close enough to the ocean, close enough to the mountains, and to a big city like DC. And they had Trader Joe's and Costco. So, like, yeah, that's the place.
Yup, that's key.
You mean Nebraska doesn't have Trader Joe's?
No, they do have the Trader Joe's and Costco and Whole Foods, but they don't have the mountains and the ocean nearby. So you have to travel a little long way. So I feel more at home.
Wonderful. And where in California did you live?
We lived in two places. We lived in Sunnyvale and in Mountain View.
Okay.
The Bay Area.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were neighbors to you down the road from the Bay Area. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So how did you? So you had this love of baking. You had your kids. You came here to Charlottesville.
And then
when did you decide to turn that into Viva la Nosh?
So when we came here, as I said, we didn't have a job. My husband didn't have a job. I didn't have a job. We just moved here. And so the farmer's market started in April in the Palmyra farmer's market. So I'm like, I'm going to go there. And I'm going to buy a tent on Amazon and get a table, and we'll bring my things there and see how it goes. And so that's how it went. And I started there with a few baked goods. I had the biscotti, some macarons, and some things. And then I started coming up every weekend, and people really enjoyed. And I thought, where do I going to go from here? And I didn't have a name for my business then. I had Miller Treats. And but I had saved that name, Viva la Nosh, back when we were in Omaha. I looked for a place. I wanted something celebrating food, celebrating delicious food, and everything was taken online for a name, for the domain name. And I look at Google and say, what's another name for food? And they give me a list, and Nosh was something they use in Europe, in UK, for something that indulge yourself, that it's really delicious. So I'm like, Viva la Nosh. That sounds good enough.
Sounds nice.
So I bought that domain name when we were in Nebraska. And then when it came to the Flavanna farmers market, somebody, so I'm like, I got to have some other name besides Miller Treats. I'm like, that name back there in Nebraska, I could use that name. So that's how I started. Let's go with Viva la Nosh. That sounds have a ring to it.
Very nice.
And so I created Viva la Nosh, creating sweet memories, because the idea is that these sweet treats will turn out to be amazing moments that you had shared with your friends and families, and it will forever be in your memory, just like my tea parties with my children is still with me and with them. So, and I think we need more of spending time together on the time that we live now. And so I'm baking so other people don't have, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
The part, the cleaning part.
Yep.
And then make sure it turn out well. Even when you have a recipe with everything's there, it still so many things can go wrong. And to get it right every time, it's hard and can be frustrating. So I'm taking away all of that frustration and that time, and you can focus only on spending time.
And it's true. And this is something nice about little treats, right? And especially when you have family or friends around, everybody can eat a little something, and you don't have to be sitting there cutting cakes or whatever. It's just it's like, let me try that, let me try this, and then you can sip a little tea also.
Absolutely. I got some people tuning in. We got Bill McChesney tuning into the show this morning. We have the wonderful Monica Miller tuning into the show this morning. Thank you so much for watching. We did one of our favorite viewers.
Absolutely.
To be sure.
That's why I asked if there was relations.
Well, there we go. But, so that's fantastic. And so maybe you mentioned these little sweet treats, and maybe tell us a little bit about, so what are the different things you make?
I create, I bake these biscottis that are actually, I say they're not authentic because they're made with olive oil. So they are soft enough that you can actually bite them.
Yes. Okay. You don't have to soak them in things.
You don't have to soak them, and you won't break your teeth if you try. And they're still hold enough that you can dip on tea or coffee, prefer that way. But they're just delicious. I make two kinds. One is almond with chocolate and a little bit orange zest. And the other one is, actually I have here to show you, a lemon one. And I use So I lived in California for almost 10 years. And when you live in California, you get used to taste things that are very fresh and it's very authentic. Yeah. And so I have that because I love food. So I rather have something very small that is made with attention and is fresh, with the best ingredients I can possibly find, than having a whole trail of things that are cheaper and doesn't taste as good. So I go for the small and the high quality and the best taste. So I want to eat that. And then I feel safe to feed my children and my friends and in my family. So yeah, that's why everything kind of small. Let me show you. So through the farmers market, I wanted to create a tea place. So because of the overhead of creating, open a space, renting, all that cost for somebody that have never done this, it would be a big like of a leap. Sure. And I decided to create this little tea party gift box.
Oh, look at that.
And the tea party gift box.
Yes, that's really nice.
So I put it all together, and so you open up.
Did you design that, or you found a nice...
I get the box, and I have to cut and put the paper myself.
Wow.
That's so nice.
And each box is different from one to another. Okay. And so when you open the box, so you're going to open it. So you're going to have everything you need for a tea party. So you open in. I don't know if you can see. Let me open here.
Oh, Judah was like, you can, if you're, the way you were doing it, you can see. So,
okay, all right.
Look at that. Look at that. So everything that you need is in there.
And then, so the inside, so I have the biscotti, the lemon one. Yep. And then I have the almond biscotti. And then it comes with the tea. So I use organic fair trade rooibos. One is peach, the other one's plain. Also have a mango one. Ooh, it's delicious and it's uncaffeinated. And I only use compostable package and unbleached paper for the tea.
So you don't have to feel guilty when you're done. You put everything in recycle or compost. Yep.
And
just it comes a hole in the ground.
Yep.
And I have the little napkins.
How cute.
It comes with the napkins. And then it comes with the cups and the little saucer. Let me show you. So the little cups has these
the saucer.
Covers.
I guess you put the cups in there. So
you put the cups in here, and then you set up
your little tea plate.
Little tea with the saucer and the little plate, the serving plate. And you have the little napkin. You have the tea. So also comes with this little a little reminder to spend time together. And then you set up. So the plates comes with, depends how many, which size box you buy. So you can put the biscotti. You open up the biscotti box, and you can take the biscotti out of the box. And you place it on the plates and the other biscotti. I also have little pound cakes.
Nice.
Then you can cut it up and place it in front of you on the table. And all you need to do is invite your neighbors, invite your mom, or you can give it as a gift for your parents or somebody that's far away so they can spend time together. So that's how it goes.
That's fantastic. And I bet you this is also great for like picnics, because one of the hardest things when you want to do like tea or things at a picnic is how do you are my tops going to break? How do I make this travel?
Right.
So you got the box. All you got to worry about is the hot water.
I was going to say, the only thing you have to remember is to bring the hot water in the thermos.
Yeah,
the thermos. Bring the hot water in the thermos.
The party and it's
and you're set. But like, one of the hardest things about picnics is getting all the stuff there.
Yeah.
And this, you're like, oh no, all I need is this one box.
One box and a pot of hot water.
Exactly, and the hot water. So that's just.
Or you can even bring the tea already made on the thermos, and then you can just pour it.
Pour it in. Yes.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's amazing.
That's really, and all that comes together. What did you find all this?
I just put it all together. My brain works in mysterious way, I have to say.
That's pretty neat, right? Because
I wouldn't have even thought to look if they sold.
That's what I'm saying.
The tea, the thing that you put over the cup to make it look like a teacup.
That's impressive.
I wouldn't have even thought that you could sell it. And Vanessa Parko, watching the show this morning, loves the idea too. She says, "Love the gift box. Wonderful idea." So everyone's like, wow, that's a fantastic idea.
And I just love that to send like for birthdays, to send, I have people that have bought it from me to send to their families that were having their birthdays or some kind of celebration. And when they receive that box, because it's so beautiful put together, everything is so detailed. When they open and have everything there, they just have this joy on their face. And when they eat everything, it's so good. Everything's so delicious. Everybody that has tried any of my treats, they're like, it's the best. It's really, I really put time and effort on everything I do. And sometimes a little too much, but that's how I do things.
But that's what makes it special, right? Because you're getting the fresh quality ingredients, right? So each bite is really coming through. But then it's also that sometimes it's that attention to detail that brings it to the next level. Like because it's what separates just a random gift box that had things thrown in there. It's okay, I opened the box, there's a bunch of stuff in there, right? Versus, oh wow, to receive this in the mail is like, oh, someone really took the time to package it, make the wrapping paper look nice, have that beautiful linen paper on top of the box. It feels like if you thought your family member did it, you'd be like, oh, that's so sweet. They put so much time into it, right? But that's what I think elevates it to the next level.
Yeah, like when I baked the biscotti, I used unbleached organic flour. It has some orange zest and orange juice in it, so I buy fresh orange. The lemon is fresh lemon. I squeeze everything. Zest there and when I'm baking it, so everything like you can taste.
That's very nice because I mean the way you treat your family is the way you treat all your clients. But what I was going to say is just that box alone, and I guarantee you, there's probably a lot of people that don't know that you go through the trouble of putting that on top. Right?
Yeah, I have to cut it so it's just
where
right.
Where did she buy that? Right? Where did they buy that? But I know my wife is like, she'd never throw that out. It'd be another box of storage where she could put more like something in there.
That's true. I can think of a lot of people that would never get rid of the box.
I know, and I'm one of those box hoarders. I love boxes, and I think it's all coming together. My taste of food, my baking, hobby, and the boxes, because now I can use the boxes because I have saved every single box. If they're cute, I'm like, I can use that for something.
Exactly.
And now I really can use them for something.
Absolutely.
Now, do any of your daughters, have they picked up this tradition that you like of baking, or are they not into it yet?
The oldest one, she did because they're homeschooled. So when we were in Omaha, every Wednesday she would do a baking something. She actually picked up baking like macaroons, and then later I started baking macaroons, but it was first hers doing it. So this is like some of the macaroons that I make, and I can find sometimes at farmers market. They're very finicky. Everything that can go wrong with the macaroons, they will go wrong. If you mix too much, didn't mix too much, if you bake too close to the thing, not too far, too long, oh my gosh, and if you don't wait too long, if you wait too long or didn't wait long enough, everything can go wrong.
Well, that's what they say, right? About the difference between cooking food and baking. Is baking truly is an exact science.
It's a science.
Everything has to be exact. And when you're just cooking, it's like, I'll put a little more salt, a little this, and mix it up. But here, it's got to be right. Otherwise, it didn't grow. It didn't, then whatever it is, it has to happen. Didn't happen right.
Right.
Exactly.
And now that I have been baking so much for so long, I am spoiled because I would not pick a recipe if it's not has the grams on the recipe.
What does that sound like?
I can't bake if there's just like a cup or 2 cups, or it has to be the exact grams because I know that person's serious, because it's so many, the level when you level and how much we put, it totally changes everything. So if you don't have the grams, you're not serious.
It really is amazing. I have done some with grams, and one time the baking soda was in grams. And they had both the grams and the tablespoons, right? And I was doing grams on the recipe, and said, well, just out of curiosity, I'm going to use the tablespoon to put the grams to put it in and see if it's not even close.
It isn't.
15 grams is not like 1.5 tablespoons. It was a completely different.
Wow.
Like I measured it out and I'm like, oh my goodness, if I had used tablespoons, this would have been a different recipe.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And even for like, if I'm going to buy a book, baking or any kind of book, I want to find a word on there, sticker in there, because I know somebody went through the
James Beard Award or nothing.
I'm getting to that point of like, this is a bit much, but it's like, because you put so much time and effort in, and after you spend like an hour putting this thing together, and at the end, when you finally finish the product, that you had to wait for another hour to bake, and then it's not what you expect, and disappointing.
Yeah.
And there's the ingredients and your time and the mess, and then I'm like, there's a lot of the time the recipes is not even your fault. It's somewhere in this process didn't have like, hey, pay attention to this step. Yeah. Like you have this step is very important. So yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I would agree, and especially if you're doing something that is a business, right?
Yeah.
Because listen, if you're doing it for the family, it's like, oh, it's not perfect, but it's edible. You eat it, right?
Right.
But you can't sell that because somebody's going to say this is garbage, and that's it. You're done, right?
Right. And when you bake one time, somebody tastes that, and then next time they go, it's like, but that's not the same thing I tasted last time.
Exactly.
Consistency.
You need to have precise, and the grams have to be there.
Absolutely. So, and I know you also do the little cheese.
Oh yeah, I make cheese bread, which is a Brazilian treat. It's
cheese bread.
Cheese bread. They call it cheese bread, but if you think of a cheese bread, you think of a loaf that have cheese on top. These are not that. They are made with cassava flour, which is they're actually grain free. So people that has gluten intolerance, I wouldn't say the people that has celiac disease, but the ones that have gluten intolerance can eat them because they're not made in a kitchen that's certified gluten-free, but they are grain-free. And so they are made with two kinds of cassava, one that is fermented, one that's not fermented, a sweet and a sour one. And because they're made with the sour one, I don't even need to use any baking powder, any baking soda, or any yeast. It puffs up because it is fermented. The sour one's fermented, so it puffs up the little bread, and it makes it really crispy on the outside, but it's kind of cheesy on the inside. Wow. So it's a great little treat to go. It goes with wine really well, and then also with coffee. Idea. And just a snack. My children, sometimes I just make it so they can have in the afternoon little cheese bread. And they're small, so you can have, you don't have to feel like you have to eat a ton of it. One gigantic big bread.
Exactly, yeah. You pop as many as you feel like having. And those I know can be found somewhere around Charlottesville. Food of All Nations, I think, has them.
Yeah, I have some at Food of All Nation. You'll find them in the freezer because they're actually baked and then they're frozen. And so all you need is reheat for like 5-6 minutes, depending on your oven, and then you can enjoy them. Wow. And you can also, I start selling them at some wineries. They carry them. So when you are there having your wine, you can ask for an order of cheese bread, and all they're going to do is warm it up, bring it right fresh for you so you can enjoy with your wine.
So when you go to Trader Joe's, it'll say Viva la Nosh?
Food of All Nations. Yeah. Okay. And then right now, actually, I'm working on creating a package so I can sell like Food Lion, other places.
So one day.
I'm working right now.
When we have Renata on next year, it'll be Trader Joe's. and more. Absolutely. So what's it like being an entrepreneur? And I know you went through the CIC class. So what was kind of that journey like to being like, okay, I'm not just making this, I now have a small business that I'm running.
Right. Having a small business, it's like, it is hard. And you need to have as many people helping you on that process as possible, because you don't have a lot of resources to pay this person to do this person to do this for you. You have to think and like, who can help me? And so I have so many people that had helped me along the way. So CIC was an amazing class I took that gave me this foundation and so much knowledge in terms of my budget, my marketing, my the cash flow.
Yep, that's a key one.
And if you gonna have a business, that cash flow, that understanding that number, it's so important because you can't move forward unless those numbers are right.
Yep.
And sometimes just having a wish or just make something that you like, it's not enough to be sustainable. You need to have the numbers right, because otherwise you're just having a hobby. You don't have a small business. And it's nice to make things and just give it away. Yeah. But if you wanted to grow your business, you need to be able to pay somebody at some point that will help you grow your business. And if you can't even pay yourself, then how are you gonna, you know? And then our whole idea, because I'm a stay-at-home mom, sort of, I want to create this business that allow other moms to join me at some point, the ones that, have a part-time job, that they can come, help bake, and then we'll distribute the things, and they can spend time with their family. And then we will totally understand if you're sick, your child's sick. I'm a mom. My children get sick. And this is a place where you can come to work and we'll support each other through sick and health, So that's also my business my intention is to create a place for moms to come and support one another to raise their family. Because everything I do, all the money I make, it goes to pay for my children things. So if they want to do guitar, if they do gymnastics, if they do karate, those things they do, I help pay for it. And I want to have that resources to help let them grow and nourish their dreams and
their creativity.
Their creativity,
exactly.
yeah.
Very nice.
That's awesome. And now, did you? Because I did. What I love to tell people sometimes is that I think a lot of people might look at CIC Workshop and say, "All right, I need to be like starting from scratch." But now, you already existed as a business before you took the class. So
I thought that was best if doing the CIC with already something happening, because now it's like, oh yes, I can use this for this, and I can use this for this, and they have other resources that they have a financial what do they call it?
Management program, the FMP, financial management.
Management, and so I have a person that sits with me, and we go through my numbers, and now she can see I'm doing this for a whole 2 years, and she can see my numbers, and she can help me to improve this or improve that, changing this or that, and that is so helpful, especially for a small business this like most of the small business people. They have a second job. They do something else. They you can't just focus on one thing.
Exactly. Well, and it's so many hats, right? I mean, you could be an expert at what you make in the small business, right? You could be expert at baking. You could be an expert at, taking photography and so forth. But that doesn't also make you an expert in accounting and banking and loans, right? So it's just, you need those resources, because you can't possibly no one's going to go to get a degree in accounting so that they can then go back to their small business.
Yes, so I do the baking, and I get my husband, he needs me to do better on my tracking, all those expenses, because he does our taxes, so he has to do, I need those numbers, I need those things, so he, thank God, helped me, because one person cannot do by myself. And so even my daughters, sometimes they come and help me put the labels on my boxes. So I created every single label and I thought about the box, the labels, and on Christmas time or different holidays, I decorate the box in different ways, different colors and things. So
you got expenses on the label, you got labor expenses, all these things. So you got to log in. When you do your own business, you don't think about that, right? At first, you start, it's like, I love to bake, I want to put all this together, you do it, and somebody says, well, how much that cost you? Well, I don't know.
That's that break-even cash flow class.
Exactly.
What did this actually cost you?
Yeah.
And finding all that overhead that you have, like the website that you didn't think about, the insurance that you think about, all the delivery time the gas.
Exactly.
All those things adds up. At the end, they're like, whoa. I have to have $1,000 just to start the business, like the LLC, all the other license that you have to add it there. And so you're not thinking about that when you're creating a biscotti. Now, how much of that's going to go inside of the box?
Exactly.
And then some people are like, oh, but that's so expensive. But yeah, it is and it isn't in a sense, because you have to think of the labor that goes, the time and all these other things that you have to have, the insurance. And if you have a store, the rent that's going to go in there, the insurance for the place, it just adds up. And so I teach small business for homeschoolers, teenagers, and I talk about that.
Yep, that's so key.
And then I feel like everybody should start one business in their life at some point, so then you can appreciate and understand what goes behind a business,
all the other things you see,
and all that cost and all the effort and time that a lot of the times, sometimes you can't quantify.
Yep.
And so you try as much as you can, but you're gonna end up doing more, just like you would do if you have a job.
Yep.
Sometimes you put more time there that you get paid for it.
Exactly. Exactly. No, it's so key. You work really hard, but you have that beauty of you're deciding what to provide, and then you have the flexibility.
Exactly.
To do it as you want to do it.
Yeah, you have the flexibility. Like yesterday, because my girls are in spring breaks, we went to Maymont in Richmond.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful park.
Yeah, beautiful.
It is so beautiful. They even have goats there. You can feed the goats. And it's like you're paying to feed these goats. You go get quarters, put it in a little machine, and then they get a little handful of food, and they're just so happy to put their little hands there and have the goats eat from the hands. It's just something special about that.
Exactly. But it's that's the beauty of small business, right? Of owning your own business. You can still have that time with your family.
Exactly.
Even though you don't have to work really hard.
Yes. Yeah.
All the rest of the time.
And then you're there to I have my daughters. They do karate. I get to take them there. I got to watch them, and just have those little times to take them to the park. They need to play. They need to have fresh air. And, when you are gone all day, you barely see them.
Exactly.
And then we can cook together. We can eat better as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what it's about, yeah.
That's what it's about. Well, Renata, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely,
It's been so much fun having you on. Before we let you go, where can people find you?
So you can find me at vivallanosh.com, www.vivallanosh.com, or also selling the biscottis. I sell at the Food of All Nations, and I just start selling them at the Virginia shop.
Oh, very nice.
Very nice.
And the Mickey Tavern. I want to say Mickey Tavern.
Okay.
Mickey Tavern.
I've said Mickey too many times. Yep.
So those are and also at Palmyra at Art Emporio.
Oh, yep.
Next to the Food Lion there, I sell that as well. And I'm probably gonna be coming up to on Saturday for X for the farmers market.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I'm trying to make that happen.
Okay, so people can look forward, hopefully one day soon, seeing you there.
Soon I try, and because I teach yoga too, and so I teach at Lake Monticello and Fluvina library now, so I'm busy.
Well, we're glad in your business you came to visit us this morning.
Thank you
some
so
time
much.
out of your day to come see us. I appreciate that. Yeah,
I appreciate both of you. Thank you for having me and let me show my goodies here.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
All right, so as we go ahead and swap here.
Yeah, that was
Always
kind of pretty interesting, right? I mean, how that. All that she puts together.
Exactly. It's really, really amazing.
Very creative, very creative.
Very much so.
That's I always talk about that. There are some people who just have that creative side of their brain work so well, right? And that's why when we talk about small businesses, that's why sometimes what you need is a situation where you need some help for the other side of the brain, where it's all the numbers and all the calculations, etc.
Exactly.
Because you have that creativity where you know what you're doing, but you forget that if you run a small business, the other side is also very important.
Yeah, there's so many pieces that come into play. You can't just let it go.
Yeah. So it's very good.
No, it's really, and it's also a testament, obviously, to the hard work she puts in, but also like you really appreciate those workshops.
Yes.
That CIC puts up, I really encourage people because to remind them that you can be an established business, that you can be a business that's already in business and they'll help you learn.
That's right.
What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? What could help you? Are you sustainable? How can you become sustainable? How can you grow? So there's so many things you can learn. And then when you graduate from the workshop, it's not like Renata said, it's not like, okay, you're done with 16-week workshop. It's over. See you in 30 years, right? There's a financial management program. There's all these other resources you can connect to help you keep growing. So that's fantastic.
It's a great way to network too, right? Because more and more people now learned about your business. And if I remember well, one of the nice things, because I guess they have like a round table, right? You learn from other people. It's like, well, here's what I did, and I did this wrong. It's like, oh, okay, I was thinking about doing that. So, what should I do to make sure that I don't make that mistake, right? So
exactly.
That's good. Yeah.
So key. So it's just, fantastic to have all these wonderful small businesses in our community.
Well, listen, we've always said that's the bloodline,
the lifeblood,
lifeblood
of the economy,
lifeblood of the
economy, and it's good to be reminded that, especially on days like today, where it's like, all right, stock market, 10 said, okay, but that's not. Those 500 companies are not the lifeblood of the economy.
That absolutely not. Exactly. Absolutely right.
Are they important? Do you buy things from them?
Of course.
Yeah. Right. But they're not what makes the economy function. Yeah. On a day-to-day in your small town, it's a lot of other things that come into play there. Yeah. So you can't get too worked up about a day here, a day there, even a week, even a correction. Corrections happen.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Like over time, who knows look how many corrections we've had.
You want corrections. If you don't get corrections, you've got bubbles.
Yeah, that's right. And
right.
You don't crashes.
Yeah. So you don't want a lack of corrections. That's why it's called a correction instead of a disaster. Among other things. But just important to keep in mind.
What's interesting is because it's the quarter end, right? And so we usually kind of look to see what the markets have done during the first quarter, the last 12 months, et cetera. And, I find it amazing that, so many people have panicked in this first 3 months of the year, especially the first, the last 2 months, because and it's more because of market volatility, in my opinion, than just the markets going down. But you take a look at the 11 sectors of the S&P 500. As of yesterday, only 2 sectors are down. All the other sectors are up, right? So even though the S&P 500 is down over 3%, right? Only two sectors have really precipitated that.
You could probably guess which two those are.
And so you sit there and you go, so not everything is going wrong. So it's not like there is truly a market crash going on. There are just pieces of this economy where, because of the uncertainties of, whether you're worried about the tariffs, whether is the Fed going to lower interest rates or not, right? So these are the pieces to the puzzle that markets don't like. So those pieces that impact that specific markets are the ones that are really truly getting hurt.
And you start to do one of them. I'm sure tech is one of them, right? You could argue tech. You would sit there and say, well, how much are they affected by some of these tariffs, right? And so you look at tech being down, and then you have to think back to December, early January, when we were sitting on this show talking about the fact that you have some of these companies at the top of the S&P 500 that have done really, really well, and they're taking up so much that we haven't seen since 1963, 63, right? And that it's hard to sustain that growth. But as you would look at some of these, and you looked at something like NVIDIA and said, well, it's not like NVIDIA, we put tariffs on Canada, and it's like NVIDIA said, oh no, I can no longer function without Canada.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's because NVIDIA was a little high, probably a little overpriced. You get this tiny little drip of bad news that everyone has now forgotten about 3 months later with the little Chinese AI company, and NVIDIA just starts going down, right? I said, did NVIDIA go down because of news, or did NVIDIA go down because NVIDIA was too high?
Exactly. Right? So it was just slightly. It was overpriced. Exactly.
Overpriced. Yeah. So you have to look at these different components because it's easy to get lost and say, "Oh, the whole thing's down." I said, "Well, as Xavier said, no."
Yeah.
The whole thing's not
It's
down.
like you said, there are healthy corrections. And some of these companies, they needed that, right? Mm-hmm. They needed these corrections because they literally can't continue to grow at the pace that they've been growing over the last 5 years, and therefore their markets aren't going to go up in the same rate. So
exactly. We said this before 2022's down year, right? 2022, the market went down. And we were talking that year, right? You had some of these large companies at 80 times price-earnings ratios, right? And you sit there and say, price-earnings ratio is basically what price-earnings ratio was telling you is the price of the stock relative to the share of the earnings of that company that you get. And you sit there and say, well, wait a second, if this stock is at 80 price-earnings ratio, then that means that if I buy this one share and the price doesn't change, let's say the price stays the same, it's going to take me 80 years of these current earnings to get my money back.
Right.
Do you think about it? It's absurd on its face, right? And so what happens is they corrected in 2022, among other reasons, inflation and so forth, yes. Right? But sometimes the correction is necessary because you just look at the valuation and say, this doesn't make sense. This company doesn't make enough money to justify this hype, right? And then what happens is post-correction, then you find out, was this company legitimate or was this company all hype? Right, so, and you think back to your MySpaces and guys out of the dot-com bubble that once they corrected, they never came back. But you did Amazon, which corrected big time in this dot-com bubble, but it's still around.
Yeah.
Because it actually did make money. So you need to weather these things, and what you don't want to be doing is saying, I don't want to be in the stock market at all because the world is ending.
You got to think about, the stock market is like any other market. It's called supply and demand, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like we always talk about the real estate market being supply and demand. In other words, if there's 2 houses and there's, 15 people that want to buy those 2 houses, guess what? That price is going to continue to go up until it hits that point. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing. A company has a certain amount of shares outstanding. It's not like all of a sudden that's like, we got all these people let's just create more shares. No, I mean, not that a company can't, but the point is, at any given day, those are the shares. So guess what? And the only way you're going to buy those shares is if somebody else is willing to sell it to you. Mm-hmm. And sooner or later, someone says, I'm willing to sell it to you, but it's going to be 10 higher than what it was yesterday. And somebody says, I'll take it anyway. Boom. So that's how markets, and therefore that's why they explode. That's why they grow so much. Mm-hmm. And as we all know, I mean, there was just an enormous amount of quote unquote, free money or cheap money, let's call it that way, because interest rates got so low at some point in time, right, that money money went where? It just went right back into the stock market, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that was also a little bit of a bubble there. And I mean, the sector that also didn't do well was consumer discretionary, right? So again, what does the consumer do when things get a little tight, right? Mm-hmm. They started going out, right?
Exactly. So, well, and we kind of saw this, right? Because you're talking about 2022, high inflation, 2023, high inflation, 2024, moderate to high inflation, right? At a certain point, right, we were sitting there saying, all right, consumer spending which is 70% of the economy, it's held up. But when we started to hit record credit card highs last year, you're like, okay, how much longer can it hold up? At what point does the consumer finally say, I can't buy this anymore? I'm not going to buy it.
Or the credit company says,
or the credit card company says,
you no longer have any.
You no longer have any credit.
It's not like the government that says you no longer have any funds to borrow.
You no longer have any funds to do this, right? You have run out of places to obtain funds to buy more, right? And the first thing you cut, you don't cut consumer staples because that's what's called staples, right? First thing you cut is anything that falls into that discretionary category. I'm not going to do it, right? And you start to see that weakness come in.
Exactly, yeah.
So you need to be prepared for those things to happen. And again, I mean, maybe you could speak to, because obviously, look, if all the tariffs we're talking about continue, that's a reshaping of the economy as we have seen it, right? And you were talking to some of our clients the other day about the lag effect. Like, okay, let's say you put a bunch of tariffs on car companies and they do want to move back to the U.S. That doesn't happen overnight. In 5 weeks.
Right, exactly.
Right? So you have to have that period where, okay, yeah, those other guys are now expensive. Those imported parts are expensive now. But the new factories haven't moved here yet. So there's kind of that interim period that even if something may work out in the end, there's going to be a rough period in between.
Yeah, and I guess there's two parts of the tariffs, right? And again, I mean, I think I would say that part of what this administration is doing is trying to level the playing field a little bit. I mean, it's also, I think, a negotiation. But in either case, I think more than negotiation, I think we've got to the point where it's like, I don't just want to negotiate, because if we're still exporting our jobs, that's not a long-term plan, right? Mm-hmm. And so we need to insert a certain amount of pain where the companies say it is no longer worth it to us to build factories outside of the U.S. We might as well build them here, right, and employ people here, and that's the trajectory that you really want, right? And I think that requires a lot of pain, both on those companies that are exporting our manufacturing, right, and of course it's going to hurt a little bit, on our end, because things are going to cost a little more. Because when you think about it, the reason you do trade is because the assumption is somebody has a resource that you don't have, right? And you have a resource that they don't have, and you're willing to exchange that, right?
The classic one I like to use is olive oil, right?
There you are.
It makes more sense for us to buy olive oil from Italy than it does for us to attempt to grow olives in a climate that is not as suitable to growing olives as Italy. So Italy has a cheap resource, olives, right? We have other things, right? You do the trade. You say, yeah, I will import your olives.
Exactly.
Because it makes more sense. You have a comparative advantage in olives that I do not have. You might even have an absolute advantage in olives, right, that I don't have, right? But to your point, what the cheap good that we're talking about when you think of places like China, where you think of sweatshops where you get your clothing, right?
Labor.
The cheap good is labor.
Labor, yeah.
And so you sit there and say, is that the cheap good that I want to be doing this deal with?
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think from that perspective, you sit there and go, is that really the right thing to do? And at this point, you look at your own country and say, what is it that we create? What is it that we manufacture in this country, right? And why can't we? And I think the advantage that we now have is certainly robotics and AI will eventually take over some of the routine, some of the the labor, repetition that people do. I mean, just, screw that in. And in all day, you're just doing the same repetition, right? You go home at 5 o'clock, come back next day. Well, a robot's going to do that all day long, right? And so when you think about it, it's going to take some time, as you mentioned, but I think the idea is to bring those manufacturing jobs here, and it doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're going to have people, doing what the guys...
No, you're probably looking at skilled labor.
Skilled labor, right? And that's the whole goal, right? Yeah. So I think the tariffs are there, in my opinion, this time around, not so much for negotiation, but because...
To actually change
because we need to change the trajectory of the economy in this country, whereby we begin to produce, things that we import that's like, there's no reason we can't produce that, right? Or create that. So I think it's going to be... It's going to take time. It's going to be a little painful.
There may well be an adjustment period that people need to be prepared for.
So the point is, it's like, when do we want to do this? The point is, if you're going to do it now, right? You're going to have a very difficult year, right? And then the next year, it's going to get better. And before you know it, by the third year, you're booming, right? And that's the whole goal. If you keep waiting and waiting and waiting, you're going to get to a point where there's no return. Yep. All of a sudden, the rest of the world will be the greatest economy in the world, and you're sitting here and saying, there's nothing we can do.
Well, I remember thinking back to original economics, right? You as the major, when you have that kind of trade imbalance, right, where you have the major import and the major export, right? And in this case, labor is what the major export is exporting, right? And especially in the case of Chinese goods, right? That imbalance only goes on for so long. At some point, this economy gets larger than this one, and now you are the cheap labor to their import, right? And you should see it in the way that they have been done to shift their economy. They would very much like to reach that position, right? And they're not wrong to want to do so, right? So you cannot do these things forever. So the question is, when do you attempt to forestall this shift? Do you attempt to forestall it when you're still in a position where you are the major importer, or do you attempt to forestall it when it's too late and you are now the cheap labor?
And I mean, even things that, at least for me, it's just common sense. But I remember reading an article where there's a certain amount of military equipment that is being created outside of the U.S. And you sit there, why? I mean, if you're creating something that is really for the use for your protection, you're literally giving other countries the ability to say, oh, so that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So it's like, that should stay here, right?
Well, there have been some scandals. It was, this might have been 4 or 5 years ago, where they found that there was tracking and spyware in chips that a Chinese company had produced for the military.
Yeah.
I said, well, is that really shocking?
Exactly.
And I said, oh my goodness, how did they do this to us? I said, well, why wouldn't they do that to you?
That's
you
another
outsourced
industry,
it to
right?
them.
The chip industry, right? It's like, why is that being created outside of this country at this point, right? I mean, we can create chips here, and we should, because you don't know what are they putting into these chips. Mm-hmm. You don't really know, right?
Exactly. So it's just but I think there's an adjustment period.
Yeah, there is. I mean, and again, we're going to see it. But it's interesting is that if you have. Think about it. If in this year has shown it more than in previous years. But if you have truly a blended portfolio and a diversified portfolio, like I said, I mean, there are some funds. Those funds are up this year. I mean, like some high dividend paying funds, they're positive as of yesterday. That's very good, right? Yep. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Bonds are up big, right?
That's your major difference, I think, because I think people are a little worried that you're going to have a repeat of 2022. Because 2022, there was nowhere to hide. I mean,
exactly.
Floating rate bonds, maybe, but there was essentially nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
If you were in bonds, your bond portfolio was down. If you were in stocks, your stock portfolio down. If you had a blended, diversified, beautifully diversified portfolio across all the asset classes, all of everything, you were down.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
That's not what we're looking at this year. What we're looking at is a stock market correction. But unless you're very, very, very young, right, you should have a blended portfolio by this point. If you are, what would you say, anything over 30, you should have some bond component.
Exactly.
Right? The closer you are to retirement, the more bonds you should have. So if you are very close to retirement, your portfolio should be very protected right now. Because yes, the stocks are dragging that little piece down, but you should be seeing certainly some income protection and some price protection on the bond side of your portfolio. Yeah. I mean, and that's what I think is a little different. Like a blended portfolio can weather this in a way that 2022 you couldn't hide.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, that's true. And I mean, I was, again, going through, some client portfolios, et cetera, because, we get a lot of calls now, right? Because, all they look at is they see the TV, S&P 500, growth stocks are down, everybody panics, and they call, and we look at their portfolios. Yeah, your portfolio's up 3% so far this year. Really? It has up. Because it's different. Yeah, exactly.
In other words,
we don't have you 100% in the S&P 500.
Exactly.
And so and they're shocked, even though no matter how many times we explain them about portfolio diversification, they're still shocked. So, but that's the whole point. The whole point is that even within the stock market, there are so many places that have done well this year, right? That the panic I think is overblown, and I'm sure the market's down today in certain areas, and there'll be more panic. But I'm not, I don't see this as a some people talk about recession. I don't see this as a impetus to a recession whatsoever.
Yeah, doesn't mean it won't come, but there may be other reasons.
Yeah, listen, the only reason you would have recession is if the consumer decides, I'm not going out anymore, and I'm not spending anything anymore, and I'm not doing anything. Because the consumer, like you said, is 70% of your GDP. If they just completely buckle down and said, hey, I'm just paying off my credit card, I'm not doing anything, yes, you're going to have the slowdown in this economy.
Exactly. But again, a well-diversified portfolio can weather that.
Oh, easy. Yes.
Exactly. That's
easy.
And I would say that's what an opportunity like this is. This isn't the opportunity to, oh my goodness, let me sell everything and get out. This is an opportunity to say, hey, was my portfolio well diversified? Yeah. In other words, if I am 60 years old, am I down more than the S&P 500, because if so, that's a problem.
Exactly.
Right? My portfolio was not risk adjusted to my age. If I'm, to be honest, but you should look at the flip side. If you're 21 years old and or let's say you're out of college. So let's say you're 25, you've got a 401k, and your 401k is, the S&P 500 is down 3-4%, and your 401k is down 0.5%. To be honest, you might not be taking enough risk. You might be sitting there saying, "Oh, this is great. I'm not down as much." But over 40 years, your portfolio actually may be incorrect.
Exactly.
For your age.
That's right.
So it's a time to look and say, where is my risk level? I see what the number is on the S&P 500. Where is my portfolio return given that parameter? Do a little scenario analysis for yourself and say, am I appropriately not just diversified, but is my risk level appropriate?
Yeah. And like I always say, you do the work, and if you've got 10 mutual funds, ETFs, or whatever, look at each one of them. See what's in them, just to make sure that yes, you're truly diversified.
Exactly. So these are always opportunities to learn more about your portfolio and to see what's going on.
Yeah. Call your financial advisor and find out.
Talk to them. Yeah, exactly.
Talk to them.
This is the time to be talking to them. You should be calling them.
Yes. It truly is, and I appreciate it actually when people call, because it gives us an opportunity once again to discuss what we're doing for them and where they are, and
why we're
it's
doing
peace
it.
of mind. I mean, it's incredible. By the end of the phone call, it's like, wow, I feel so good.
Exactly. Well, always good.
Same here.
To have a little reminder. Thanks to everyone watching. Juan Sarmiento watching the show this morning. Thank you for tuning in. The wonderful Keith Smith tuning in this morning. You should always check him out one day after us.
That's right.
Not difficult. Same time, same place.
Today, Mañana.
Mañana, you can watch Real Talk with Keith Smith.
That's right.
Always appreciate him tuning in. And definitely thanks to everyone who watched the show this morning. And be sure to check out vivalanosh.com. Be sure to check out cicville.org if you're interested in those. Yeah,
if you're a small business, I mean, you really should just check them out.
Because I'm pretty sure they're set, and obviously the January cohort is well underway. But there's always another cohort that's.
What do they have, 2 a year?
I think there's 2. I think it's up to 2 a year, maybe 3. And there is a Culpeper Orange one as well if you're out in that area.
Okay.
So be sure to check them out. You can learn about, and they're doing things all year, even if you're not in time for the workshop. There's so many resources that you can still get connected. You can do a one-on-one consulting with the Small Business Development Center. So there's a lot of things you can do, even if you're waiting for the next opening for the 16-week workshop. So I would encourage people to check that out. Got a great show lined up for 2 weeks from now. We're going to have on Christine Fairfield from the Virginia Oratorio Society of Virginia, Gabrielle Gammon from Merriment Digital, and Matthias Yohn, our monthly meetup with Matthias on next time. So got a full house.
Absolutely.
On the next show. Looking forward to it. If I'm there. If not, I will be welcoming a little one. So
I was going to say, hopefully not for your sake.
Hopefully for my sake, I'm not. Yeah, then she'll be a little late in 2 weeks.
Oh, should I say for Elizabeth's sake?
For Elizabeth's sake.
For you,
for me, for Elizabeth's sake, hopefully we're.
You just get nervous, but
I just get nervous.
Elizabeth's got to do all the work.
That's my job as impending father, is to be anxious. So that's my job there. And always good to be on the show with you. Always good to have Judah behind the camera, working his magic. Love being on the I Love CVille Network set. Thanks to our presenter, Emergent Financial Service, and our great partners, Matthias Yohn Realty, Charlottesville Opera, Forward Adelante. Thank to all of you who tuned in this today. Have a great, hopefully spring is here with some sun and everything, but enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful weekend. We look forward to seeing you next time. But until then, as we like to close it out, hasta mañana.